Just in case you're not well acquainted with my next guest, Dave Portnoy is the founder and owner of Barstool Sports, a wildly successful media company with a particular appeal to young men, a demographic that helped Donald Trump win back the White House. Barstool Sports has nearly 50 million followers on TikTok, publishes some of the most popular podcasts in the country. Now, Portnoy's followers get a steady stream of sports content, financial advice, pizza.
Also, Goldman Sachs just rescinded its recession call, lol. It's so cool. Wait, this article says 65% chance of recession. How is this a recension of the call? It is really cool to be reminded how stupid our so-called financial experts are. Again, a lot of it is just like no ideological grounding, right? They see like market signals, they see fluctuations. They're good at measuring stuff like that. They don't see the forest for the trees, you know?
Reviews and unfiltered and some say offensive conversations. In recent days, he has gone viral for comments about tariffs imposed by President Trump.
Next year, not this year.
Portnoy supports.
We'll see.
Dave Portnoy joins me now. Thank you so much for being here. You have been openly questioning the president's tariff strategy. I want our viewers to see and hear what you said on Monday.
I went super viral when I said I lost $7 million. I'd kill to be back to losing $7 million. I haven't even looked. If I had to guess, I'm down in these last 3 days, probably close to 20. I don't know, like 10, 15% of my net worth, poof. But I'm still here. That's the game. That's what I'm in.
Christ, these people are stupid. So it would he now, as of like breaking news from 1.5 hours ago, is he back on the Trump train now? Is he happy now because the market went back up? Just 125% tariff on China.
Do I like it? No. Am I crying? Am I like, oh, woe is me? I wish I voted for Kamala. No. Do I wish this didn't go down like this? Yes.
Now, you obviously voted for President Trump. You also
he's in a more serious outfit
that
today.
You think he's a smart guy. You are willing to give him a couple of days or even a couple of weeks. Where are you now?
So it's uncomfortable. Anytime a stock market is like this and you're invested in it, it's certainly uncomfortable. But I stand with it. You know, he ran on tariffs. He said he was a tariff fan. And I don't pretend to be an economist. I don't think I realized that we'd have this market crash. I don't think most people did. But I think he believes in what he's doing and trying to basically strong-arm China and get better deals for the U.S. I'm willing to still give him time. I think the big date is the midterms, which is a long time out. But I do think that in this country, the number one issue, no matter what is going on, is the economy. And
I hate financial media so much that I want to make fun of him for being stupid, but he's not even meaningfully different to like the way anyone talks about it. Like you would get basically the same analysis if you tuned into a Bloomberg feed, you know? It'd be the same shit. There's no broader understanding of I don't know.
If the stock market doesn't show some signs of rebound or rebounding by then, I think people speak with their vote. So, but I'm still, he was pretty straightforward that I'm tariffs. I don't like China. I'm going to do all this stuff. He's doing what he.
This is not financial media. This is financial media. This is as coherent and economically literate as any financial media you might consume out there, because all those finance bros are doing is using like education and a high level of field expertise to dress up the same underlying desire, which is I want to make number go up however possible. I'm here for my portfolio. I'm here for the bag. I don't care about anything that I consider an externality. It's not, again, like it's not like market performance tracks directly onto the health of the economy. You know, everyone's just a gambler trying to make their make their return.
Ran on. So to turn around just because we've had 3 or 4 bad days in the stock market, super uncomfortable. My bigger thing at this point is let's not pretend it's not a major issue. Like it is, and you can't separate. I don't think I saw the Treasury Secretary Bassett today, like separating Main Street and Wall Street.
Yes, he did.
They're pretty connected. Yeah, they're pretty connected in my book. So I don't know if he's just talking about the super fat cats, but if the stock market's tanking, we are going to have an economic meltdown over the long term. So I'm still going to give him time. He said, I think Trump said, it was a sick patient. He needed to take medicine.
I'm learning nothing from this. I'm learning contempt. I'm learning like strong negative feelings, I guess.
You got the market seeing your brilliance.
Yeah, that's up almost 7 points. 2,500 points. Nobody's ever.
I hate it when guys like this use terms like fat cats. Yeah, isn't he worth like $100 million? Everyone, again, like this is what we get. The elimination of the social aristocracy from the United States like economic framework is equivalent to what we did by making it so racist can be racist but not by saying the N-word, where you have people who are worth billions who earnestly believe that they're not the elite. There are so many people who are the elite who do not think that they're the elite.
It's going to be a record.
Amazing. Yeah. You make an announcement the next day. Yes, sir. Smart.
The market is up quite a bit. What is Bloomberg on about?
The big thing, which
Oh,
we're doing now,
sure, man.
Acres surging right now. Ford up 7.6%. General Motors up 6.8%. Stellantis up 14.8%. And Tesla right now up by 18.7%. Apple getting a lot of attention. That stock up by 7.8%. Keep it locked in. We got you covered. Fast-moving markets right here on Bloomberg. I'm
Again, like this media doesn't exist to help people understand how the economy works. This media exists to help gamblers and wealthy people track how to best siphon money out of the economy. It's all the parasite economy. None of this has anything to do with like actual economic well-being. Is that John Bloomberg? Yes, that is John Bloomberg.
Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Hey, thanks so much for that update, Charlie Pellet. Worth repeating because the news is huge. President Donald Trump announcing a 90-day pause on higher reciprocal tariffs that hit dozens of trade partners after midnight. Well,
isn't one of Tesla's biggest markets China? Why would they be up nearly 20% or 20 points? Because it's all fake. It's all aura and hype moments. It's none of it. There is literally no feature of the stock market that tracks speculative value assessments onto the actual performance of any company. There's nothing. They're completely disconnected.
Raising duties on China to 125%. We are seeing stocks surge as a result. World equity indices showing a lot of green. The NASDAQ composite 9.6% to the upside. The S&P 500 up 7.6%. The Dow up 6.5%.
All right, let's get to the markets.
Let's
talk
do
a
it.
bit more about it. With us here in studios, Bloomberg News cross-asset reporter Isabel Lee. And it is really broad-based.
None of it will remain when the tariffs finally hit. The tariffs have hit, and it can still remain. Because the stock, again, you're not understanding. Tariffs affect the real economy. When a tariff is applied, it is a tax on the import of goods. That's real money changing hands there. It's in effect right now. That's the real economy. The speculative parasite bubble, the leeches and rats floating above all of it, totally disconnected. How do you think you have so many loss leaders? You have so many tech companies that do nothing but lose money, but still somehow people invest quadrillions into them. OpenAI, is ChatGPT making money? No. But OpenAI is still making an ungodly amount off of investment. Wait, I thought it was paused. What about the title? Well, the title says breaking the tariffs are paused, but also raised. I don't know. So you missed part of the title. You have to read the full title. Explain then. Rewind the damn stream.
Scarlett Fu mentioned this earlier to us. It's indiscriminate buying.
It definitely is. We have just a wave of enthusiasm sweeping through markets. Everything is really rising. We have the S&P rising as much as 8%, and that's coming off from a precipice of a bear market, which is a 20% plunge from its high. We have Bitcoin soaring, you have Arabica coffee, you have gold, you have oil, you have two-year yield, you have traders pulling back expectations for the Fed, and you have two-year yields plunging. It's really just green on the screen. But we do have some analysts saying that there's still prolonged uncertainty, I mean, yes, we have this pause, but what's going to happen after?
Isabel, hang on for a second. We do want to...
Or the 125% tariffs on China,
head to the White House and President Trump.
We're getting yippy,
Yippy?
A little bit yippy, a little bit
Yippee!
afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. No other president would have done what I did. No other president.
That's probably true.
Presidents, they wouldn't have done it. and it had to be done. What was happening to us on trade, not only with, if you look at it, not only with China, but China was by far the biggest abuser in history, and others also, but somebody had to do it. They had to stop because it was not sustainable. Last year, China made $1 trillion off trade with the United States. That's not right. And now I've reversed it. It's for a short period of time, but we made $2 billion. We're making now $2 billion a day. And
wait, why is he saying he reversed it? The tariffs to China got increased. What is he talking? What? Nothing has changed. Is that meant to be temporary? What are you talking about?
Somebody had to do it. Roger actually said it. Charles Schwab was here a little while ago, one of the great financial people, and he said he's been waiting for 40 years for somebody to do what I did over the last month. And if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have a country. It wouldn't be sustainable. So I'm honored to have done it. And, look, nothing's over yet, but we have a tremendous amount of spirit from other countries, including China. China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. It's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well. And they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal.
Old man yelling.
And we have many other countries, as you know, many more than 75. And they all want to come, and they want to come here, or they'll go to Commerce, or they'll go to Treasury. We have our great senators here and congressmen. They'll call John, they'll do somebody, they'll go through somebody, but they're all calling, how do we do this? They all want to make a deal. Somebody had to do what we did, and I did a 90-day pause for the people that didn't retaliate.
The EU retaliated.
Because I told them, if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate. So we'll see how it all works out. I think it's going to work out amazing. I think that our country is going to be at the end of a year or shorter, but I think we're going to have something that nobody would have dreamt possible. A man like Roger Penske, I don't want to get him in trouble with China, so I won't, but he would know that someday you have to cut the bow and you have to do what you have to do, right, Roger? And that's what I did, and I'm very happy to have done it.
Mr. President,
was there anyone
the Prime Minister of Greece just told Breitbart's Matt Boyle that he thinks absolutely the European Union and the United States could work out a trade deal that's win-win and, quote, mutually beneficial to both sides. What do you think about the Prime Minister's comments, and do you think a deal could be struck with the European Union?
First of all, I know him. He's a good man, and I appreciate his comments. Yeah, a deal could be made with everyone.
Can you imagine, like, a less credible exchange of ideas with regard to the economy? A Greek politician speaking to Breitbart. That's, I mean, we're building off big over here in the States, big and powerful deals taking place here. Jesus Christ.
One of them. A deal's going to be made with China. A deal's going to be made with every one of them. And there'll be fair deals. I just want fair. They will be fair deals for everybody. But they weren't fair to the United States. They were sucking us dry, and you can't do that. We have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. We don't have it there for fun. They have it for a reason. And people took advantage of our country, and they ripped us off for decades. I've been thinking about this for decades. If you ever saw me on television, I was young like these guys. And it was a good old day.
I'm sure you guys already understand this, and I don't need to repeat it to you, but U.S. national debt has literally nothing to do with our trade deficit. They're completely unrelated things. They have nothing to do with one another.
I'll tell you, Roger. But I was like these guys, young, and I was talking about it. Nothing changed, and nothing was done about it. Then I did it. In my first term, I did it, and did it well. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China and others, and I started the process, but then we had to fix up from the COVID mess caused by China. We had to fix up from that, and we did a good job of doing it. And when we handed back the reins after a rigged election, and when we handed back the reins, the stock market was higher than it was before COVID coming in. So, we did a great job, but we didn't have time to do the big thing, which we're doing now. And it's, it's like a patient is sick. You have to do surgery. Patient is very, very sick. And Joe Biden handed us over a country that was in very serious trouble, economically and in every other way. They let China run away with things. They let other countries run away with things. And maybe worst of all, in a certain way, is what they did at the border. We had people pouring into our country by the millions. Many of them were murderers and drug lords and thieves and people from prisons from all over the world. And there were people from mental institutions, insane asylums. They were taking their mentally insane and they were dumping them into our country. And I'll tell you, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem are doing a fantastic job in removing them. And now the courts, the Supreme Court just gave us numerous good rulings where we have to be able to get them out. You had other judges trying to take over the system. And think of it, they take over. They want these people coming back. Tren de Aragua from Venezuela, the Venezuela jails that cut off the fingers of a man in Colorado. They cut off his fingers because he called the police looking for help. They said, "Did you call the police?" He said, "Yes, I did." "Put your hand down," and they cut off the fingers. This is what they want to bring these people back now. And I want to thank the president of El Salvador for the job he's done, because that is that's the way it has to be done. It's too bad.
Foreign gulag. Yep.
Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they've been talking about tariffs for decades. How come when these Democrat elites want tariffs, everything's hunky-dory, but when President Trump wants tariffs, all hell breaks loose? Do you see
this goddamn Queen accent? Toss a cracker at this motherfucker.
Double standard?
I love this guy, whoever the hell that is. That's really nice. I appreciate that question. No, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, everybody knew you.
By the way, I actually think this is fair criticism, and I'm not joking. Obviously, it's a cocksuck question, but I'm not kidding. Democrats have also proposed stupid tariffs to protect domestic industry for no reason other than because they are servants of capital, you know? They have done this before. Biden, with his insane tariff on Chinese EVs being the most recent and egregious example, and I was against that when he pushed forward as well. I thought that was egregious too. This is what happens when you concede the issues. Yep.
You had to do it, but they never had the guts to do it. It does take guts. It even takes guts for our country to go through it. That's why I say be cool. They were saying about, see, just be cool. It's going to work out. It's going to work out, and it's working out. I can tell you, working out maybe faster than I thought. But I said it's going to take a little conditioning. It's a transition to, it's really, I think it's a transition to greatness. It's going to be greatness. Our country is going to be, there'll be nothing like it. And people investing in our country, they're going to do better than they've ever done before. We have more car manufacturers, Roger, coming into our country now. Speaking of cars, we've never seen anything like it. And they're coming in because of the election, but they're coming in because of the tariffs. Because they don't want to pay 25 or 50 or whatever it may be. They don't want to pay that. They can't pay that. We had 3 cancellations in Mexico, building a plant.
What?
They're all coming into the United States. Canada, they're coming in. From China, they're coming in from everywhere. And that's just cars. We have chip makers coming. We're the biggest chip maker in the world from Taiwan, coming in, spending $3 billion to build plants, and mostly a big plant. This is a hell of a plant when you spend the kind of money that they're going to go $200 to $300 billion, not million. You know, you'd say million would be the right number. It's not. $200 to $300 billion. Think of that, $300 billion. If you look at Apple is going to spend $500 billion building a plant. They wouldn't be doing that if I didn't do this. They'd just keep building them in China. And that's unsustainable. It's not a pleasant thing to do, but...
Funnily enough, since all the other tariffs are on pause, a lot of companies are going to continue their pre-existing practice of just rerouting their trade through a different country. Like they'll be made in a Chinese factory, and then they'll be moved through Singapore or whatever, and then they'll go into the U.S. They've been doing that for a while. They're going to keep doing that.
I appreciate the question. And, you know, interestingly, Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, Crazy Nancy, they've wanted to do this for years, but they never had a president that had the guts to do it, because it does take guts, believe me.
Was it the bond markets that persuaded you to reverse course?
I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky. I was watching it, but if you look at it now, it's beautiful.
It's pretty much the same as it was last night, more or less. I mean, there's been a little bit of a pullback, but not. All right.
The market right now is beautiful. But yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy. I think everything had. Well, the big move wasn't what I did today. The big move was what I did on Liberation Day. We had Liberation Day in America. We're liberated from all of the horrible deals that were made, all of the horrible trade deals that were made. And I was helped by people just like this, senator, congressman, and friends, right? And we had great help in the Senate. Our Republican senators have been amazing. They stood tall. And likewise in the House. And John Thune has done an amazing job. Barrasso has done an amazing job. I mean, I can't think of a senator, really. We had tremendous support. We got a bill passed the other day with almost unanimous support in the Senate. And I think we're going to get that in the House, too. And I have to tell you that Mike Johnson is a great speaker. He's done a fantastic job. We had a majority of 1. Now we have a majority of 7. And you don't realize how big 7 is until you have a majority of 1. 7 sounds like so much. But we're doing well. But Mike Johnson and John Thune have done a really great job.
Mr. President, was there anyone who influenced your decision? Did you speak with anyone? You know, Jamie Dimon? Did you speak with anyone?
Well, I watched Jamie Dimon on Maria Bartiromo's show this morning, and he was very good. He said that actually made the statement to effect that something had to be done with the tariffs and trade. He said that. He said, look, you know, at some point, but he said something has to be done with tariffs and trade. He understood it. He's very smart and very a genius financially. He's done a fantastic job at the bank.
Yeah.
And he knows that. Everybody knows that. Anybody that's even a little bit smart knows it. It wasn't sustainable what was happening. Somebody had to pull the trigger. I was willing to pull the trigger. This should have been done long ago. Just like Biden should have stopped the border long ago. I mean, allowed 21 million people plus into our country, many of whom should never have been allowed out of prisons and jails. They came out of prisons and jails from all over the world. And now we're getting them out, bringing them back to their countries. But it's should have never been done. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Sir, would you consider exempting some U.S. companies, maybe some larger companies who have been hit hard in the markets the last few days during this 90 days?
As time goes by, we're going to take a look at it. There are some that have been hard. There are some that, by the nature of the company, get hit a little bit harder, and we'll take a look at that. Yeah.
How will you determine it over the next 90 days?
Just instinctively, more than anything else. I mean, you almost can't take a pencil to paper. It's really more of an instinct, I think, than anything else.
What's your credibility like? Because you said that these tariffs would go into effect on Monday. You said no pause. And today there is a pause. So how can people believe your words today?
It's not a question of that. You have to have flexibility. I could say, here's a wall, and I'm going to go through that wall. I'm going to go through it no matter what. And keep going, and you can't go through the wall. Sometimes you have to be able to go under the wall, around the wall, or over the wall. These guys know that better than anybody, right? You got to go around them sometimes. You're not going to go through.
It is so f***ed up that the European Union is probably just going to take the 10% flat tax sitting rather than, like, working to divest their economy from the United States, you know? Like, at some point, you have to read the writing on the wall, man.
So I consider, you know, I think in financial markets, because they change. Look how much it changed today. We went from, you know, pretty moderate today, but over the last few days, it looked pretty glum, to, I guess they say it was the biggest day in financial history. That's a pretty big change. And I think the word would be flexible. You have to be flexible. Like he's asking the question about some companies. Some companies, through no fault of their own, they happen to be in an industry that is more affected by these things than others. You have to be able to show a little flexibility. And I'm able to do that. I'm going to say hello to these champions because they are great champions. I got to say hello.
All right, folks, you've been listening to President Trump there live outside the White House, following what's been a very interesting day and certainly a big market day as we've got quite a rally underway. The rally kicked off by comments that President Trump said around 1:30 p.m. Wall Street time, which had to do with basically saying that there's a 90-day pause on those countries that did not retaliate when it came to the tariffs that the U.S. imposed on them.
The president saying he paused tariffs due to people jumping, quote, out of line. Here's what he said, quote, well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. This is what President Trump says when asked why he announced a 90-day tariff pause for most countries that have not retaliated against the U.S. Quote, they were getting yippy, he says. This is the president speaking just moments ago to reporters during a photo op with racing champions at the White House.
Yeah, I think what's significant is he said he announced a tariff pause. As you said, those were his exact word, but because people were getting afraid, he did talk a lot about China, which is, I think, certainly front and center for all of us, that U.S.-China relationship, so important in terms of global macroeconomics and just really kind of everything, if you will. He did say China...
Why did he actually pause the tariffs? Somebody talked to him and pointed out that we can't win a trade war with every country on earth at once.
Wants to make a deal. He kind of said that several times. He also talked about the EU. A deal could be made with everyone. And he did say he was watching the bond market. Bond market now is beautiful. But he did talk about last night people were getting a bit queasy. And then he did stress.
So I don't normally watch Bloomberg. Do they literally just repeat headlines? Is there any like analysis? Do they ever share opinions or try to like further people's understanding of these subjects? Or do they just literally say like number up, number down, here's the number, not the number?
But, you know.
You remind me, have both an economic and a market.
Yeah, I was
backdrop.
an economist before I became a strategist.
So
yeah.
for like Goldman to kind of just come out, make a recession call, and then to like do that 180, like how?
Very surprising.
Like, how do you do that?
Extremely surprising. I don't know. I mean, you know, their models might be different than mine. So
does a model change that quickly?
Respect, I think they're making a lot of assumptions. They must have been making a lot of assumptions in their outlook.
Let's read from it. Goldman Sachs rescinds recession. It's a short. Well, now the story's gotten longer, but I'm going to.
Does anyone else think it's really strange that our definition of a recession is determined by market performance and not by any like real world cost of living indicators? Like, can you just not have a recession in a country that doesn't have a stock index? I guess like it's not possible to have a recession in Ghana, I guess, because like there can be economic downturn. No, it's based on GDP shrinking. Yeah, which typically looks like, okay, wait, hold on. How much does market trading get affected by GDP? Wait, no, I'm sorry, I fucked that up. To what percentage of GDP is like that upper end speculative investment? GDP is also, that's also true, but I might have overestimated its involvement in my mind. I don't understand the question. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't understand the question either. I think I might have just totally blanked on like 50. I think I might have just like in my head thought the definition of a recession was by index performance and not GDP. Hence my confusion. Just another day on the New York Stock Exchange.
It was a short story that has been updated. So I'm only going to read one paragraph from it. Earlier today, before President Trump's announcement, we had shifted to a recession baseline in response to the additional country-specific tariffs that went into effect this morning. We are now reverting to our previous non-recession baseline forecast.
I do think that I'm at my smartest when stream begins. And then as I consume the information and get caught up on the news, the IQ gets like, you know, slowed off my mind. Like, you know, like ice being shaved off. You know, it just gets like chopped off and melts, gazing into the abyss, etc. Yeah.
From the Goldman Sachs team led by John Hatzius. So I'm just having trouble understanding it from the perspective of a shift in fundamentals, because again, like you and I spoke about, and look, I know you're not writing this, Gina, so I'm not going to ask you to respond to this specifically.
That's crazy.
But help me understand how you know, if something fundamental doesn't change, if indeed this is just a 90-day pause, then why are we thinking differently about the overall economy?
Right. Yeah, I don't know, because for me, the 90-day pause it's just a pause. It means you have no visibility as to where you're ultimately going to be.
What are they yapping about? I think they're implying that Goldman Sachs doesn't have a good reason to rescind their recession call. And they're suggesting that Goldman Sachs is operating on the assumption that Trump is going to suspend these tariffs indefinitely rather than just pausing them for 90 days. I mean, I'm not going to lie, right? Like, given the fact that we still have a massive tariff placed on China, I don't really know how we couldn't see one. Like, given what's happened, I mean, even if Trump tomorrow was like, we have one big lead, China has come to me and they have apologized, never again will they treat us badly in trade, and then he undoes the tariffs on China or whatever, the hit to the global market, I feel like, I don't know. I don't know how much this can be undone.
From our model standpoint, the moving run rate of economic data at any given point is what really drives our expectations. And the moving run rate of economic data was deteriorating. I don't think that this pause really changes the run rate of economic data. And until it does, it won't change our earnings model's view, right? And I do think that until we know with certainty what is going to happen during the pause and after the pause, it's really difficult for companies to make decisions as to how they're going to, move their businesses. So from an investment standpoint, I don't think this is great upside. It just maybe removes a significant degree of downside risk to the degree that you were trying to forecast and anticipate massive changes emerging. Then maybe this removes that downside risk. But that's not the way that my models work, and not the way that most economic models work either.
Do you rewrite your research for tomorrow morning? Like, how are you?
No, I mean, we're still the downside risk is the downside risk, right? I mean, we are generally held to a standard of data and model specific research, right? This is one area where I think we can do a great service to the world. Is our numbers don't change because we're pontificating about what the president will or will not do. They're all data based. So as the data moves, our models will move. And
the pontification is how you predict whether the data will move in the future, right? She seems mad that Trump made her whole field irrelevant and vibes-based. Wouldn't you be? I mean, it always has been, but he certainly is increasing the degree to which it's vibes-based.
You're selling your desk, you're selling your stocks, you're selling your bonds, you're selling your desk, you're selling your jewelry. Earlier in the week, we saw gold sell off. Gold, of course, has done very well, obviously, this year. But there comes a point where there's so much panic. And the reason people panic and sell gold is because your cell phone bill is denominated in dollars, your mortgage is denominated in dollars, your taxes are denominated in dollars. At the end of the day, when you're really panicking and you have bills to pay, you reach for those dollars. And that's what we saw last night.
Well, there's also been a fear, or at least some chatter, that maybe some of those overseas buyers maybe weren't going to be so interested in U.S. Treasuries, that there were alternatives in the global bond market.
So it was just, you just get to a point where you look at the situation the country is in, self-inflicted, and do I want to have any exposure? Is there any good reason to have exposure
are so mean.
to that right now? And so I think, as Gina was just saying, you can still look, we're getting this really big relief rally, but we have historically high tariffs on China that are gigantic. 10% tariffs on everyone else, at a minimum 90 days uncertainty of while this is negotiating. I think it's also worth noting, someone who we talked to a lot, Neil Dutta, has pointed out, there was slowing that started earlier in the year. Now the Fed is going to be iced for a while. Business activity is going to be iced. There is a lot of uncertainty that remains in this market.
Still, Goldman Sachs coming out.
Yeah, okay, that's probably enough of that. Sorry, as a member of the New York Stock Exchange, I have to keep appraised of this information. I am really worried about the EU pulling back on the tariffs. Oh, me, Navarro already has a goddamn... Is this after Trump's Truth Social post?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Charles Payne. This is Making Money. Just moments ago, President Trump announced a 90-day pause. And let's get right to it. Joining me now, Trump's top trade advisor, Peter Navarro. Peter, okay, so we've got 90-day pause. We've got the post from Truth Social behind me, essentially isolating China. The tariffs are going to go higher, but you've got a 90-day pause. We just heard from Scott Bessent. 75-plus countries are trying to negotiate. Walk us through how this decision was made.
Charles, this is one of the greatest days in American economic history we have had. I think we're going to call it the art of the reciprocal trade deal. And I'll tell you, all the nervous Nellies on Wall Street who try to undermine us consistently underestimate the power of the president to negotiate. What have we got here? We are at a place now where we have a broad-based 10% global tariff on. Well, we negotiate over the next 90 days with all of these countries who have come to us. And the mission, Charles, in these negotiations is to dramatically reduce our trade deficit, level the playing field, get rid of all the tariff differentials, get rid of all the non-tariff barriers.
Then why did you get rid of the tariffs? How can we want the tariffs are a negotiating strategy, but also the tariffs are to rebuild American manufacturing and get rid of the trade disparity. You literally can't have both.
Dow 50,000, Charles. I've said this before. It's going to hit that. We're going to have a broad-based recovery in the S&P 500.
Peter,
We're going to pass
let me
a tax cut
in for a second.
and get us.
Let me jump in
no
for a second
recession.
because you talked about the nervous Nellies on Wall Street, and by the way, I'm in that camp as well. I wasn't nervous, but I understand, but you understand how people felt and all the anxiety and all of the negative news stories. But some are saying it's the market, particularly the bond market, that pushed the White House into this move.
Oh, no. We had a great bonds market selling today, and everything was fine with that. The yields looked beautifully. We had broad-based participation in that, and it's trust in Trump. I mean, look, this was done in a beautiful negotiation. We put out there a set of reciprocal tariffs that reflect the crushing trade deficits that we have with these countries. Yeah, I said at the beginning, no negotiation. It's not that. It's a national emergency, but we'll...
The talk here in Sweden/EU is mostly about how to retaliate. Doing it does seem like a given. I'm trying to, you have to think about this logically, right? Or you have to think about this from the perspective of other people. I'm trying to be empathetic here, okay? If you are any official in any country around the world right now, any of them, with the exception, I guess, of Russia, Belarus, maybe Serbia, I don't care, okay? If you're any of them, when you're talking to other countries, you're saying, holy shit, the Americans have lost their minds. That's all you have to say. No one out there thinks this is sane. No one out there thinks this is good. So the question is, what conversation would they need to have privately amongst themselves without Americans present that would lead them to then cuck out to us? And how do we keep them from having those conversations? Like, what conversation do you need to have as, say, an EU financial minister, right, with other people in your department to come out of that going like, well, in spite of all of this, we're still going to, invest in America. We're still going to build out with America. Like, I understand that part of this difficulty is the fact that corporations based in these countries still want to trade with America, right? Like, corporations are still interested in developing these relationships because corporations are anational. They don't care about the health of the nation they're in. Usually they exist to its detriment, right? They're parasites. So if you're like, say, Alibaba over in China, maybe you want to find a way around this, but you can't because the Chinese Communist Party actually does work pretty hard to rein in the detrimental impulses of its corporations. But if you're in the EU, where you're only a little bit less cucked to capital than our politicians are, maybe you have European companies who are like, no. It doesn't matter that Trump is obviously a madman. It doesn't matter that he's, compromising the global economic framework. Work with him. We need that threshold where no matter what Trump does, says, doesn't do, whatever else, they still pile on the hurt. Now, I think we've actually reached this point to an extent with Mexico and with Canada. Because Canada, of course, as we all know, is currently embarked on the 1,000-year neoliberal Reich, an empire of bone and blood erected to inflict maximum suffering on Americanoids, which I support in full. And Scheinbaum down in Mexico has been working extensively to negotiate trade deals with China and with the European Union. But we need our European former allies to get in on this, China, Canada, and Mexico are probably locked in, right? They're probably locked in on being anti-regime. We need more cooperation. It's in everyone's interest, by the way. As soon as, say, Europe, broadly, politicians and corporations understand this, they can build more fruitful relationships with other countries. What makes Vosh think that the U.S. has not already demonstrated that it is not a reliable partner for European companies? No. I think we have demonstrated that. I just think that they're cucks. I think that Europe is a nation of cucks, rivaled only by us, the gigacucks. They need to grow a f***ing spine. And their capitalists are, like all capitalists, stupid. Stupid, greedy, self-interested, a poor understanding of the broader picture, like all of them. Look at private equity. They run everything into the ground. So that's what I'm hoping for.
We will listen. And what we heard immediately was beautiful. These countries want to come to us, lower not just their tariffs, but their non-tariff barriers. And as Scott Bessent said just a few moments ago, there's other things that are going to be on the table that are going to help us reduce our debt, reduce our deficits, things like LNG plants in Alaska. So we're going to see a wave of investment here. They're going to invest here. We're going to see them lowering their trade barriers. And here's the thing. There's a beautiful analogy President Trump likes to use. It's like each country, it's not going to be like a suit off the rack, right? It's not one size fits all. It's going to be every deal is going to be tailor-made. Right. And we got 90 days to do this. I'm telling you, Charles, this is going to be the biggest boom. And let's not forget, this tariff strategy is embedded in this beautiful, huge other sets of strategies. Yeah. The tax cut. We'll get if the Congress gets that done by August, then this idea that there'll ever be a recession is just silly. I mean, the tax cuts, broadest based, just beautiful tax cuts for the middle class. That alone will help us. And then we've got the oil prices going down. We've got the bond market behaving well now. So it's unfolded exactly the way it should. It's a beautiful thing. In my hat,
but let me just European pharmaceutical companies are threatening to leave for the U.S. EU drug companies warn of exodus to U.S. as Trump threatens import tariffs. Von der Leyen urged to take rapid... Of course. You know why? Because these drug companies make their money in the U.S. because we're the ones who pay exorbitant drug prices. In a bunch of countries in Europe, they're selling it to their national health service or whatever for $1 a pill bottle or whatever. Over here in the United States, it's exorbitantly expensive because our government is, uninterested in negotiating lower prices. So they make all their damn money over here. Basically, America is like the easiest country to rape. Basically, like the European drug companies are like, yeah, I know we keep billions of people alive or whatever, but what we're really interested in is this group of piggies has to pay 1,000 times as much for the same drugs. So we really want to keep that, we want to keep that going. You know what you have to do to shit like this? You nationalize it. You're going to hold our continent hostage? The Europeans should say. You're going to hold our continent hostage and threaten to flee to America because they're the easiest ones to fleece? Okay, go, take your corporation. We're keeping the facilities over here. No, you can go. No, that's fine. Go for it. We're taking the rest of it. And mass arrests and a lot of other wacky stuff of the pharmaceutical execs, 100%, for treason.
For a second, Peter. President Trump.
Let me jump in for a second because I want to get
They'll never do any of that, lol. And you know what's fucked up? What I just described would have been an easy, obvious solution in every nation or every kingdom or every empire before 50 years ago. Even if you go back to immediate post-World War II, if an American company was yeah, I know we are we're an essential part of the framework of the health of this country, but we make a lot of money by doing stuff contrary to the interests of your country, so we're gonna betray you and move over, that shit would not fly. It's only in the past half century that we have been so run by global capital. God, the death of the USSR was the worst thing to ever happen to the not USSR. Forget the people in the USSR who suffered. I'm talking about us. Now that there's no competitor to global capital, they can do anything they want.
With the focus on China, now when the reciprocal barriers are put out there, a lot of people were curious, why such high numbers for Laos and these other countries? To me, it felt like you guys are forming an economic blockade around China so that they couldn't cheat on any potential deals out there. So there's no doubt you're singly focusing on China, and also the notion that somehow they've lost, right? Yesterday, South Korea.
Look at this big boom day on the chart right here.
Even though on Friday we saw the South Korean minister locking arms with China and Japan, they said no, they've rejected China. Is this a wholesale rejection of the rest of the world of China in this negotiation?
Charles, what we saw from the rest of the world ex-China was a willingness, in fact, an eagerness to talk.
Previously, you've said a unipolar world is safer because it prevents proxy wars. Have you changed your mind? Well, we don't have a unipolar world. We don't have a pole. Instead, we have like a weave of capital that has stretched across the planet and is like draining it dry. Like nations don't even have power anymore. What does a nation do? What is America doing right now? What's the line? Like 5 companies in a trench coat or whatever? Like so much of the dynamic right now between Trump and other nations with regard to national trade policy is being dictated by private corporations. It's insane. Yeah, it's like a non-polar world. There's no pole. It's just aimless nothing.
Talk to us in a recognition that they've been cheating us for years. And they're the ones who cooperate. China has chosen their path. They chose not to negotiate at all with President Donald John Trump. And so
they actually did reach out to negotiate and they were rejected. Doesn't matter, obviously, but
we are in this situation. And China, we got the biggest trade deficit with them. Of all the cheating they do the most comprehensive set. Gee, I called it the 7 deadly sins in the first term. It's up to about the 10 deadly sins now. But here's the thing. We got 90 days, and in a very methodical way, we're going to have countries come in. And the previous show where they're talking about best of this, Ludnick that, and like as if there's a rift. We are all on the same page, and it comes from the president. You've got Scotty, you've got Howard, you've got Jameson Greer, you've got Kevin Hassett, you got the vice president, J.D. Vance, making a beautiful contribution on this. And we're all doing our job for the president, and this is the result. I mean, the tale of the tape today tells you everything.
Peter,
that all you nervous
though,
Nellies on Wall Street were too nervous. You got to trust in Trump.
I got to admit, though, Peter, that on Friday, I put out a post on X, and I was saying, okay, the commodities markets, you need 3 things. Moving on that big, beautiful tax bill that you just talked about. We'd like to hear some deals, that are coming on. And then I said, more Bessent, right? Because it felt like he was more of the architect. And then, of course, the Donnybrook that you've had with Elon Musk. Is today in some way a repudiation of you? Are you taking a back seat and Bessent now in the driver's seat?
As I just said, it's the whole team. I mean, we work together beautifully. I mean, Scotty's one of my best friends. We've known each other for years now.
I'm not disputing that you're friends, but I'm just saying with respect to messaging, because yesterday or the day before, you talked about going after these deficits in a way that scared the market. Everyone says, okay, let's get a fair, level playing field, but it felt like you wanted to go further.
Well, I mean, look, no, not at all. No, look, Bannon said this once during the first term. I'm the default strategy. In a way, if they don't want to cooperate, then they get tariffs. Okay, if they cooperate, we talk to them. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And I'm telling you, look,
I hate the news so much, man. I mean, it's Fox business. Like, you kind of know what you're getting when you go in for this. We're going to be seeing this over and over, right? Like every day it's going to, we're so back, it's so over. As volatility increases, and by the way, VIX, the volatility increase, that's bullshit. VIX goes up when line goes down, not when volatility goes up. Because the stock market is largely traded on by people who have goldfish brain, in their mind, the volatility goes down even when the line goes up, even if the line going up is a sign of volatility. Like, look, I guarantee, I'm going to Google VIX right now. I guarantee you it's down. Yep. Shouldn't VIX be up? Because the market suddenly whipping back up indicates volatility. That's the definition of volatility. When it keeps going like this, like that, VIX just means when people are unhappy. But right now they're very happy because the line go up. But later, line will go down. And then they won't be happy. And then VIX will go up. Any commentary on the fixation they have in the word beautiful? They just say it because Trump says it.
Charles, if you went behind the scenes and actually sat in on some of these meetings, We got really smart people. Each has their own comparative advantage. We all get along. We all have great ideas.
There's no disputing that.
And the
Listen,
president,
Peter, you and I have been friends for
is the one who guides this whole thing.
And you and I have been friends for a decade, and we've had some Donnybrooks on the air over that time. But the fact of the matter is that it felt like, in many ways, you and also Letnick were mucking up the public relations aspect of this.
Come on, Charles.
All right.
Don't read everything you read. Believe everything you read in the fake news. I mean,
well, the bottom line is you've got momentum. The White House has momentum. President Trump is looking brilliant right now. And again, I thought him starting so high with tariff levels that no one had thought was possible.
The tariffs were only in effect for 12 hours. 12 hours before they backed off.
No one game for 75 countries coming to the table. We got 90 days out there. How soon before we start to hear some of these deals? It sounds like South Korea is close. It sounds like Japan is close.
We're getting folks coming in.
This is a lie. So far, the White House has refused to actually see anyone. They've been bragging about the number of people who have reached out. It's not a big deal to reach out to the White House when you are a foreign government. It's pretty easy. It's the whole point of everything and how everything works. But the actual conversations have not begun.
In real time, we've already had people come in real time. We're working on things. So this is going to move fast and beautifully. And one thing I want to say, Charles, of all the stories that everybody reads out there about dissension in the ranks or this, that, and the other thing, have you ever read any story that wasn't based on anonymous sources?
It wasn't the stories. I saw some of the interviews, though, Peter, and it did feel like you were a little bit off. Listen, I know your role. You're the guy who's written all these books against China. You saw the threat before most people on Wall Street, but also you're not the soft guy. You're a tough dude, and you've gone in there.
NVIDIA's up 18%. How is this real? It's literally a meme stock. I made a video on this. All stocks are meme stocks. There's no difference between a stock and a cryptocurrency and a meme coin. They are all the same thing. They all respond to the exact same market fluctuations. There is no difference. Tesla is the same as Microsoft, is the same as Costco, is the same as Bitcoin, is the same as Dogecoin. They're all exactly the same thing. There is no difference.
In ways that maybe is great, maybe, but at times during the negotiating process might have thrown things off, might not have been on message. That's all I was saying. But the bottom line is this is a great moment for the country, and it's a great moment for the White House right now.
It's absolutely, and all I've ever said is this is not a negotiation.
Dividend payments are real. When did I say that it's not real? Like, yeah, people make or lose money off of all of it. Okay, you're not understanding the point. The point is that all of these speculated on for the purpose of producing shareholder or investor value. They're responsive to hype and feelings, not a direct one-to-one on whether or not the company's doing well. You know, the market could get together and decide. They could do this. The market could get together and decide. We're going to wait for the quarterly earnings reports, and we're going to invest in companies that did poorly, pull out of companies that did well. We're going to do an opposite. We're going to do an opposite quarter. All of us in the stock market, all of us who invest, we're going to get together and we're going to decide. We're going to flip the script this time. If you've done poorly in the quarterly earnings, we will invest in you, and vice versa if you've done well. And it wouldn't really lead to much of a difference. It's the same thing. It's just hype. You would just see an opposite day in the stock market. Was there ever a point in time where the stock market wasn't based on hype or vibes? No, that's the whole point of it. That's the entire point of it. They would lose a lot of money doing that. That would increase the stock value, but it wouldn't actually make them any money. The stock value going up is them making the money, because the value of the stock they hold has gone up. Then why do companies lose stock value when they miss earnings? Because they've lost aura. They didn't have the hype moment they were looking for. Who the fuck is going to buy it at that higher price? Where's the demand? Karam, what are you talking about? People don't buy shares at a higher price? Yeah, they do. They do because they think the price is going to go up in the future. Then they can sell at a higher price because they think it's a good investment. The line still goes up. Doesn't matter if the underlying company is not doing well. Has the fact that companies like Uber or whatever don't make money or OpenAI stop people from investing billions into them? No, of course not.
Negotiation. It's a national emergency.
Right.
where the president will talk to anybody, and then we love what we've heard. It's all consistent.
And the news is
consistent. It is a national emergency.
It is a national emergency, and
let's not lose sight of it.
You always need new investors to cash out. Just because you say a stock is worth $1,000 doesn't mean anyone will buy it from you for that price. Karam, I don't understand what you're arguing with the market right now. What do you mean? If people buy a share, the price of the share goes up because demand goes up, so the price of the share goes up because there's fewer shares available for people to buy. I don't know what you're talking about. It's all speculation. It's all gambling. No pause on Canada tariffs. Yep. Yeah, demand goes up because you're buying a portion of a company that pays you to own it. What? We're talking about investing as a speculative vehicle. We're talking about buying shares of a company in the hopes that the share price of the company goes up so that the value of your assets increases, so you can either hold that and leverage it or sell it. In either case, the value of the shares that you hold are determined by how many people have bought that share. Well, a bunch of stuff really, but largely like hype on the share, which drives up the value of the share. None of this is determined by like the yearly profits of the company whose share price you're banting on, you know? The reason NVIDIA went up is because they outpaced expectations consistently. Karam, I think you're like fundamentally not understanding the assignment, but that's okay. You're not, it's built on pillars of salt and sand is what I'm saying, essentially. You have to, it's all very scary. It's very scary, to be honest, but that's how a lot of econ stuff works, you know? I'm simplifying a little bit, obviously. I am ignoring dividends, but, you know, that's not most people. Most people aren't investing and selling and what have you off of, you know, dividends. They're looking to speculate on the share price and hope that it goes up in the future. Just give me the slop. Just give me the slop, man.
China responded to Trump's tariff by imposing an 84% tariff on U.S. goods. But President Trump says other countries are coming to the table. Roll it.
Right now, Japan is flying here to make a deal. South Korea is flying here.
Wait, this is from yesterday. This is from before. Tommy Lauren fires back at Jasmine Crockett's illegal immigration take. Oh my God, dude, they're obsessed with Jasmine Crockett lately.
All right, we're going to come back and hit you with some tariff updates because news is breaking. The first one I know of is Trump has just said, effective immediately, the tariffs on China move from 104%. Larry, I think he's trying to make...
To be fair, you're right. Most of it's traded on speculation, not dividends, but companies do have a real tangible end game when it comes to buyouts and bankruptcy. Sometimes, but even that's kind of arbitrary, right? Like, you could create a company that essentially does nothing and makes no money, goes public off a huge opening investment because they like lie a bunch or whatever about what they do, or even just because people agree to do it. I mean, that's basically what a crypto coin is, right? A crypto coin is all the speculative investment totally detached from any promise of real world, like of any company, you know, real world performance. Didn't Kash Patel do that? Yeah, essentially. Wait, Kash Patel? Possibly? I don't remember what Kash Patel made his money off of. No, Kash Patel like makes children's books or something. Like a podcaster. That's Vivek? Well, Vivek did do that for sure. Most people who make their money off the stock market are some kind of con man.